Hey guys, welcome back. So today I've got out some of the equipment that we've purchased to be able to start rotational grazing our feeder steers out in our pasture. Now right now we have a very small pasture, but every year we're going to be adding a little bit more pasture, and over the course of the next few years we're going to end up with somewhere around 15 acres of pasture that we're going to be able to rotationally graze. So knowing that that's coming, I went ahead and I invested a little bit of money in the equipment. Okay, so I bought some good equipment, and I based it all off of Greg Judy's suggestions. So Greg Judy, he's got a YouTube channel if you want to check him out, but he rotationally grazes cattle over in Missouri. He's been doing it for several years, probably most of his life, and he has he's tested out lots of different equipment, right? So he knows which ones he likes and which ones he doesn't like, which ones are good. So I based it all off of his suggestions. So the first thing we bought, instead of buying poly wire, which is a twisted poly, we bought a poly braid, which is braided, it's woven. So it's more durable, it lasts longer. So this is a PowerFlex mixed metal poly braid. So it has 6 stainless steel conductors and the 3 tinned copper conductors, total of 9 conductors woven inside of this poly braid. So it's supposed to have real good continuity or conductivity, you know, and it will carry your electric fence, you know, it'll carry it farther, it'll shock better. It's just a better product. I think it carries electricity better, and it's built to last. So that's what we ended up buying. So the next thing we bought was the geared reels, and a geared reel, basically every time you turn the handle one time, this spool turns 3 times, so you can take up your wire a lot quicker. And there's several ones out there, and the one that Greg Judy suggests is the Terragate reel, and so that's what we ended up buying. And he likes the latch system on here because it detents out of the way and stays out of the way, so you can spin it freely, and then when you want to lock it, you just flip that forward, and then it locks into these gears right here on the side. I don't know if you can see that, but so this is what Greg Judy suggests. We bought it. Now I will say, when these arrived, the box is full of holes. It was treated very rough in shipping, and when it came, these guides right here that the poly wire goes through was broken right here on this narrow part. So I called the company up that I bought them off of, and this is a replaceable piece. So they sent me these pieces to replace them with. So they made good on it. They sent these here. You just take out a couple pins and you replace them, and everything's good to go now. So but I just wanted to mention that, you know, when these shipped, you could tell the box was beaten up, and these did break. So this might be something that you want to be careful with, is this guide section. But these do seem to be, I mean, as far as the reel is concerned and everything else on here seems to be pretty strongly built. So those reels end up coming with their own little hooks, and that's what we're going to be using. We're just going to use these for now. I know you can buy some aftermarkets, but we're just going to use what came with it. So for the step-in posts, their temporary fence posts, Greg Judy suggests a O'Brien Treadline post. And the way this post is designed, you can use the poly tape, the wider poly tape on this side, and on this side you can use the poly braid, poly wire, or like the little 1/2-inch tape, I think can fit in this other side. And it's really hard to show these white posts on a camera, so you can't really tell, but it's an I-beam construction. So it's like a little H-beam, and I think that makes it stronger. Every once in a while it's just kind of solid, but it's mostly an I-beam construction all the way down, so that makes it seem fairly solid. I mean, you can see it does flex a little bit, but what is very solid is the foot part. You can see it's got little gussets. It's got like 4 gussets that go around the spike, and then it's got a, you know, you can tell it's beefed up right around here on the step end, and this really does not move. It is a stout little step in, and this is supposed to be a hardened spike. So I've walked around, I've poked these in the ground, a few of these, and I think they're going to work out pretty good. The foot does seem like it is fairly solid. So this is what Greg Judy suggests for a post, so we bought a few of these. But anyway, today we're going to go ahead set up our first fence today. Probably a small one just to get the cows kind of trained up to it. And then we'll set up our first paddock after that. But before we do that, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna start putting this poly braid on our reels. Now this poly braid is a 1/4 mile long roll. And there's no reason that I need a 1/4 mile of poly braid on a reel. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna split this in half. We're gonna put 1/8 of a mile on each one of these reels. And I think that'll work out just fine. I think that's really probably twice as long than I'll need because our whole property is only a 1/4 mile long anyway. So there's no chance that I would ever even need close to that. So I think 1/8 of a mile will be way more than I need. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to do things by myself and hold things for me. I think that this ladder is going to do just the job. Put a couple boards in here, keep that from rolling backwards. I think that'll work. Oh yeah, that should work just fine. So in this geared reel, it does have a couple wires sticking through here. I take it this is what you tie off the poly wire to. So just take that around here and we will, I guess we'll just tie a couple half hitches on here. Probably never unreel it this far anyway. All right, I think that'll do it. Let's try to reel this thing up. All right, so that's the correct way to wind it up, because when it's latched, it doesn't come unwound. So that's the correct way to wind it. So the next thing is figuring out how to get half of that onto here. And I really don't know of a good way to do that. If I had a scale, I could probably weigh it and then cut it off when it weighs about half the weight. Let me try doing that. So the other way I could do this is I could just basically start rolling it up, and when I think it looks like it's about halfway gone, call it good, and then start reeling it up on the other one. I think I'm just going to do that. It'll be the easy way. So I've been counting the turns of the handle as I've done this so far. So I've got 125 turns right now. I think I'm somewhere close to half. The bottom part of that roll is not going to have as much distance on it. So I think I'm going to stop right here. We're going to cut the wire. We're going to start reeling it up on the other reel. I'll count the turns on it. We'll see how close we ended up getting. So I cut the poly braid and then I melted the end of it to make sure it didn't fray out. So now we just need to attach the handle. And I've watched other people and they must have a different gate handle, because they normally just put a like a quick release knot in here, kind of like what you'd have, I guess, kind of like on your shoestring that you would put. See if I'm having trouble just getting it on there. The trouble I'm having is this handle is so wide, it doesn't really want to pinch down. And it doesn't want to, it wants to pull out. So I don't think the quick release thing's going to work. So I think I'm just going to tie a couple half hitches and call it good. Yep, that's a lot better. I can still untie that quick. All right, I guess I'll start counting my turns, see how close we are. A little bit of Scotch tape on there. So you can slightly see the difference. I ended up with 125 turns on this one. And this one, I think I ended up somewhere between 150 and 160 turns. So I guess the right answer is going to be somewhere closer to 140 turns. Would get you about half on each reel. All right, now I'm out here in our pasture and I'm going to set up our first temporary electric fence. And we're going to set up more of a training fence to train the cattle more than a true temporary fence to keep the cattle inside of. So we're actually going to set up a fence to keep the cattle out of an area that they're going to want to try to get in. So if you look here behind me, you can see there's like a really thin line right there. You can see its grass is greener on that side. That's where we used to mow and the grass just looks greener, and the cows want to go over there and they keep grazing that grass, and it's real short and they're just grazing it right off at the ground, and that's something we really don't want them to do. So I'm going to set up a temporary electric wire, and I'm going to block this area off from the cows, and it's guaranteed that they're going to want to try to get back over there and eat some of that green grass. So we'll set that up and we'll see if we can train the cows to stay away from the wire. Now, once it's been there for a day or so and we know the cows know what to do and they won't run through the wire and tear it out, then we will try to go ahead and set up a temporary fence and set up a true paddock to keep the cattle in, and then we'll start our rotational grazing. We'll slowly move them across the pasture here. So since the last video, we did end up buying a second water trough. That one is only 40 gallons. Really easy to dump, really easy to fill up and move around the pasture. And then I ended up getting, that's a protein block is what that is. So it's like 37% protein. It's got minerals, it's got salt for the cows, and they've really worked it over in the last week actually. So ended up doing that instead of a protein tub. We'll see how that works out. But let's go ahead and hook this fence up. So I think what I want to do is I just want to go ahead, this is probably different than other people, but I'm just going to put my handle, I'm going to hook it on there, and then I'm just going to start running this across the pasture. So what I'm going to try out is I'm going to go ahead and hook this on right next to this staple so it's nice and firm. We'll go ahead and release the catch, and we'll wind this up a little bit so it's kind of tight. All right, let's go ahead and put our step-in post in. A little bit hard to get in there. I probably got it a little tighter than I need. So I do think I have this a little tight, so I think I'm just gonna release that, let out on it. About 1 notch. It's a lot better, I think. Not too tight. So on this post, these hooks kind of twist around the post, so you need the wire loose enough so you can twist the wire and put it in. A little higher, right there. So to energize this temporary electric fence, I just have these jumper cables. We'll just hook it onto both wires, and there it should have power. So it's been 2 days now since I set up that temporary training fence, and I think it's now it's time to go ahead and set up our first section of pasture to keep the cows inside of to graze, our first paddock. So what I'm going to do is I'll get the other reel of fencing, and we're going to stretch it out from this fence, and we're going to stretch it down around that cedar tree and then over to the other fence over there. So we're going to keep that cedar tree on the inside of where they're grazing, and that will give them a place for shade. That'll give them a place to get out of the rain. So go ahead and grab the other reel. We'll start setting up this paddock. So I'm going to do this one in a little bit different order than yesterday. First, I'm going to go ahead and just step out my posts where I want them to go, and then I'm going to string my wire out, clip it on the posts as I go, and hang it on the fence on the other side. Just going to try a different order and see how that works. Oh, I'm going to get shocked. I forgot to turn that off. Hey boys, how you doing? Well, I have a feeling I should have went ahead and brought my reel with me because the cows are getting curious and they want to check out the posts I just put in. At least one cow is. Hopefully he'll move back where I want him to go. I'll just take it slow. Yep. I know, I just probably said cow. I can't say cow. Gotta say steers. I know, I'm saying it wrong. All right, we're hooked on the fence. Start reeling this out. So I do think that first time I tightened that fence up way tighter than I needed to. So this one's got a turn in the fence. So I'm gonna be a little bit gentler with this one. All right, let's go ahead and hang this on the fence. So now I'll go ahead and tighten it up. All right, we'll fix this one. I'm gonna leave this little training fence in place. Tighten it up. That way, still keep the cows off this green area right here. So I think I got everything in place now. So I'm gonna go ahead and energize both of these temporary wires. Somehow, I didn't get shocked today. I almost touched the wire so many times. All right. Well, I think the temporary fencing looks pretty good. So we've got the steers in this small little area right here, kind of trapped in there. So we'll see how they do in a smaller area. Now this is bigger than the feedlot that they were in. So plus they've got all this standing forage, all the old grass from last year, plus within the last week, everything's totally changed. We've got green grass starting to pop up through now. The grass is starting to grow. So they've got stuff out here to forage, plus they've got the hay feeder that they can eat out of and the stock tank. So my intention as I move them across this pasture, I can basically strip graze this and just keep moving the wire back. But my intention is to always have at least one cedar tree in the area that they're in, so they can at least get under it and have a little bit of shade and a little bit of shelter, since the only thing we have out here for shelter is really a couple cedar trees. So basically I'm going to strip graze this. I'm just going to move the wire. As they eat this forage down, it all has to be based off of what they've ate and what they've trampled. But when they've ate this down, I'm going to move the wire that way, and I'll just keep moving the wire that way. And then eventually we'll have a back wire here, keep them from going backwards. But we'll always keep a cedar tree somewhere in their fence so they can get under it. But that's the plan. We'll see how it works. You know, this is just the first day of putting it up, so we'll revisit this here in a week or two, and probably at least a couple weeks, and we'll see how this is doing. So I know that this is a very, very small acreage to try to attempt any rotational grazing. And I was one of those people who was dead set against it. It was like, there is no way I can even attempt to do this until I have 10, 15 acres fenced in. And, you know, I was dead set that there's no way that'll work until later on. But you talk to the people that do this, and all of them say it's scalable. You can scale it down. Don't think of it as acreage, start thinking of square footage, you know, and just size it down to what you need. And then I've read like 3 books here recently on you know, rotational grazing and you know, raising grass-fed beef and that kind of thing. And so I think I've changed my mind, and that's why we're trying this. You know, I was dead set against this 6 months ago. I would have probably not even done this. But now I've changed my mind and try to scale it down for the 2 steers that we have. So I just need to learn how much grass these guys really need, and then I can adjust how much area and how much time that they're on that. So we'll see how it goes. I just got to learn how to do it, and it's not going to happen overnight. So we'll just try this out for a while this summer. We'll try it with these 2 cows, try to stick with it and see if I can get this to work. So one more thing before I end this video. Several people have been asking about the pole barn construction. How's the build going? Do I have an update? I've been putting off doing an update. I wanted to get everything completed. So we've had a few days of rain that's delayed us, but the builders think that 2 to 3 more days and they will be 100% complete with the building. The shell will be complete. All the metal, the roofing, everything will be on, and the builders will be done and leaving. So I'm hoping to have that, you know, within the next week. Hopefully I'll have a pole barn update out here, and at that point in time, the building will be roughed in and dried in, and it'll be ready for the concrete contractors to start coming in. So yeah, the pole barn's looking good. Should have an update within a week. So I think that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time. All right, we're hooked on the fence. Start reeling this out. I think I brought just the perfect amount of posts with me that first time. Whew. Standing water down here.